Welcome back to another game development video. I'm really glad to see you guys are enjoying the series so much, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can. Last time I spent a while improving my VFX skills for one purpose, to create an actual game. We don't talk about infusion. With all that out of the way, let's get straight into it. The main issue we run into right away is modular frameworks. I want to bring you guys a game without constant bugs and that I can actually update, so we'd need a combat framework. Luckily, after the last video, the scripter and VFX artist Anita reached out to me on my Discord server and built one. I spent about a day analyzing it to understand remotely how it worked, because it was pretty complicated to me, but I can learn as I go. Here's my idea for the game so far. Of course, I have a lot more content planned for this game, so this video is just the first part. Let me know your ideas in the comments below, or join my Discord server in the description. First on the list is fully making the combat system. I was about halfway through making the first moveset, when I realized something was very wrong. The whole framework was entirely player object based, meaning it would be impossible to incorporate PvE later. I fully changed the framework to be based on characters instead, so I wouldn't have to worry about that later. I also made a sort of template for an NPC creator and server event handler for the PvE in the future. I finished the moveset and then had to fix the ragdoll system because the custom replication used in the framework caused the characters to teleport instead of ragdolling. I did end up eventually fixing this and they worked normally, but were still really delayed for some reason. My friend Potato helped me make a client-based ragdoll system instead, and I think it looks miles better despite having a little bit of latency from the position. If you know how to fix that, please let me know. Then I added more important stuff like the sub-ability system, cooldowns, GUIs, other stuff. Oh yeah, there was also this really sound design and mobile support. Yo, what's up? After all that, it was finally time for... Next was building a lobby and map. First I made box. Then I added two side areas. One was a nice little garden, and the other was a rocky area with crystals. Cause, you know, crystals. Next I made these tiles and these stairs. And then boom! This is gonna be where you summon your elements. Then I made this guy, which involved modeling, rigging, and animating. I know he doesn't look the best, but it's my first time making a custom character. This is gonna be where you buy and equip augments. I also don't have a name for him yet, so I'll let the top comment with a suggestion decide. Within reason. I also didn't have an NPC for specs designed, and I wasn't sure what to do, so it'll just be a floating cube for now. I may have gotten a little sidetracked and added a custom death and respawn animation, as well as an altered one for when you first join the game. Now onto the real map. I got started by building these base structures before adding details when I realized something. I don't actually know what to put on the map apart from an altar that I'll be using for certain server events later. That was until a guy called Remley offered to help. With his insight and direction, we spent the next 3 hours in a VC making structures, tree variants, and details together to create this. I'm really proud of our work. Huge credit goes up to him. Now with all that out of the way, it was time for making some random progress on server events. Oh, and a dialogue system. Alright, I guess I can't ignore it for much longer. Firstly, I used a module called Profile Store to store the player's data. I decided to name the game's currency Soul Glass because it was the only original thing I could think of. Then I made some simple UI and designed the Soul Glass icon. After that, I did a full dev stream, which to be honest was mostly just debugging errors and adding a bunch of random small things, but I did get a start on making the main menu and loading screen. I know it's completely unrelated to what I should be doing, but I was just procrastinating making the element pulling system. Remley also made an icon for the game, and I made two variants for the main menu. I was thinking of adding a sort of rarer one later. For the element pulling system, I started by storing all the obtainable elements and their rarities in a table. For the summoning effect, I thought it would be cool to have an orb that upgraded itself increasingly according to rarity for suspense. I ported some of the VFX I made from my last video over for the rarities, and made the VFX for each rarity's upgrade. All that was left was to add the UI, sound effects, and script it using remote functions. Here's what the code looks like.
What? No, I know that sounds bad.
Okay, I fixed it. Damn. Then I did another dev stream in which I fully coded the inventories of fragments, specs, and augments, as well as the rest of the functionality for the fragment pulling system. An old friend also joined the stream and we had a look at some of my old videos.
And the whole thing went crazy and now I have 31 subscribers because
it absolutely blew up and I now have 31 subscribers. Please spare me. Yeah, it was pretty stupid. Anyway, due to my inexperience with data store, it was probably the most painful thing I had done so far. To decide on the next fragments to add, I held a poll in my Discord server. Since you guys picked Lightning as the refined rarity one, I got to work. For Lightning's first ability, I made it so you summon an explosive spear and throw it. If it hits someone, they get stunned and a lightning strike is called down to the position they were hit. Because of bugs, this ability took me the longest to make. The R ability was a bit easier to make, a damaging dash that gives you iframes. And the F ability is a quick combo finisher. Since you guys picked Arcane as the lustrous rarity fragment, I made Frost. I did another dev stream in which I made the VFX for, scripted and sound designed the R ability. One of the games I'm taking inspiration from for Crystallised is called Choose Your Power. Now I could have just said the ability wars genre, but this game's style and environment in particular is incredibly unique and high quality. Now, even though there's no chance I'll be able to replicate the animation quality in this game anytime soon, I used the Warden Aspect's E move as a reference when making Frost's F ability. For the ability, you summon an ice hammer and swing it. If it hits someone, it explodes on impact, dealing massive damage with a decent wind up and short range. I also wanted it to do extra damage to frozen opponents, so I made a simple status effect system. How do you freeze your opponent? Frost cold. Despite looking simple, this move did take a little more time than I expected. I had to use cache tables to store move info, since the ability ends when you release the key, or the button because of mobile support. Luckily, this was easy to learn because of Zanito's example from the framework template. For the first specs obtainment, I fully made a notification system and scripted a way to actually get specs. Then I made this sort of orb thingy and placed it here. Jumping into it gives you the spec. At this stage, both of the specs I've made are movement based, and since I'm planning on adding more combat ones, I feel like it'd just be too easy to run. I tried making a forward movement speed system like Choose Your Power, but to be honest it was actually the first thing that I couldn't make. I'll see if I'll be able to make it in the future. I want the next spec to be obtained by a server event, so I made 2 augments as well as the augment shop. It didn't take as long as I thought, but I did have a bit of trouble with the M1 queuing. I was curious to see how Zanito would do it, but I sort of forgot. I also forgot to add this to the Trello, so there we go. NPCs. Something I'd been dreading coding since the beginning. I thought it would be the most difficult thing attempted yet, but despite being challenging, it actually wasn't that terrible thanks to this tutorial. There were a few funny bugs like this in the early version where it would just crash your computer, or this one where it would suddenly outright give up. After completing the base, I went ahead and did the 4th and final dev stream before releasing this video. Don't worry, there'll be more in the future. I made most of the first server event and got started on polishing the back end of the system. Now the boss bar should tween in nicely. Oh, I guess not. After the stream, I added the music system, settings and shop button as well as the credits button. With this, we have a fully functioning game with effectively 0 content, which is why I won't be releasing it this video. If you enjoyed the video and would like me to keep working on this project, be sure to subscribe and join the Discord, as well as leave a comment so more people can see it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.